I'm not disputing that the grand buildings that have been assigned to some place called Tartaria are magnificent, and I'm not disputing the fact that they exist. But what I am disputing is that they've been assigned to Jesus' millennial reign. So Tartaria is Latin. That's the Latin translation from the Greek word Tartarus, which means hell. Tartarie is the French translation. I won't even try and pronounce the Russian translation. I'm still looking it up on the screen. I'll butcher that one completely. Tartaria, spelled with a Y, Romanised version of the Russian spelling Tartaria. So, from my research, it's become really apparently obvious that Tartary was a name for the abyss, as in the Book of Enoch. I can't see that Jesus would have named his millennial reign after a word that's associated with hell, whether you want to call it hell or Tartarus. From my research, I can't find my notes now, but I literally found that apparently Tartarus, I'm going to call it, it's literally the bottom of the bottomless abyss. So apparently it's as far down from hell as what the earth is from heaven. So there was the 200 fallen angels, and the leader of them, called Azazel, was literally thrown into that abyss, and that's where he is, east of Jerusalem. And here it says, and again the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and split open the desert which is in Judea, and cast him in, and fill the hole by covering him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him live there for ever and ever, and cover his face that he may not see the light. And on the day of great judgment he shall be hurled into the fire, as in the lake of fire, in Revelation 20. So according to the English dictionary, the definition of Tartaria or Tartary was a vast region of Eastern Europe and Northern Asia controlled by the Mongols in the 1200s to 1300s. So that would be like AD. But that map shows the Tower of Babel and the name Tartaria. And according to my Bible, the Tower of Babel was built in 2,218 years BCE, before Christ existed. Azazel and his cohort Samzaya, they literally made a pact, they all made an oath, like them and the 200 fallen angels, where they was basically going against God. Now God passed judgment on them, and they literally used Enoch to petition God in their defence. But God's reply was literally that angels were supposed to petition God on the behalf of man, not man on behalf of angels. And it's like they know they've got absolutely no chance whatsoever of redemption. Literally, they're held, according to the Book of Enoch, they're held imprisoned until the day of judgment, when they're all going to be thrown into the lake of fire. And it's very graphic and blunt and to the point, and it literally says they will watch their family members, as it were, be thrown into the lake of fire. So if you're not right with God, now is the time to get right with God. You know, I read my Bible every day, and I'm like, oh dear God, I hope I'm worthy. I don't think I'm worthy, but it's like, I wouldn't mind if you just put me out, but like, we only have 2 choices. Anyway, so the Book of Enoch, literally right off the bat, chapter 1, verse 1. The words of the blessing of Enoch, with which he blessed the elect and righteous. He will be living in the day of the tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. Did you catch that? So not just the wicked, but the godless. So if you're not right with God, it literally says, the eternal God will chill on the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear in the strength of his might from heaven. And all shall be very afraid, and the watchers shall shake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them to the ends of the earth. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be laid low, and shall melt like wax in the flame. And the earth shall be wholly torn apart, and all that is on the earth shall be destroyed, and there shall be judgment on all. So the book of Isaiah talks about this as well. So I'm like, it wouldn't make sense that God's final judgment had already been, and that we're still under corruption. I mean, it literally does say in the book of Genesis that like there were giants in the days of Noah and after, and that we know the great flood, that was the first judgment by water, but the second one's going to be by fire. According to Genesis, it says about the evil in those days, and that's why God had to destroy. It was sad that it had made, that's why he had to wipe them out. But so it says here that they began to sin against birds and beasts. The giants consumed all the work and toil of men, and when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. So it sounds like they were literally being eaten by the giants. It makes me think of that kid's story, do you remember? It makes me think of Jack and the Beanstalk, for one, and where he was scared and he had to hide when the giant came home after he climbed up the beanstalk. And you can imagine it, that's why there'd be a beanstalk that climbed up to the sky, because everything was bigger. Like the giant trees, and there's still like remains, still some of those trees. Like, see if I can get a photo and show it. But also, so it sounds like there's a lot of cannibalism. And the other one, that other nursery rhyme, 3-5 faith, I smell the blood of an Englishman, and the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Chapter 9, it says, and then Michael, Uriel, Raphael and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood being shed on the earth, and all lawlessness being done on the earth. And they said to each other, let the cries from the destruction of earth ascend up to the gates of heaven. So according to this, it says that Azazel was taught all unrighteousness on earth and revealed the eternal secrets which were made and kept in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And then it names Samjazo as the one that taught spells, so with the witchcraft, basically. And again the Lord said to Raphael, so that's Archangel Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, Azazel as in the fallen angel, and cast him into the darkness, and split open the desert which is in Dudael, and cast him in, and fill the hole by covering him with rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him live there forever, and cover his face that he may not see the light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be hurled into the fire. So that's referred to the lake of fire, as in Revelation 20. Now this then leaves the buildings that have been assigned to Tartaria. And I was trying to find in the Book of Enoch, like, to piece together the connection. Now, it doesn't explicitly say that the fallen angels made buildings that generated free electricity. Because like, if you've done any research on lost history, we know that there was a massive power grid of wireless technology that created free electricity. But it does say that it was the fallen angels, specifically Azazel, that was thrown into the abyss. So it doesn't specifically say that they taught man about generating free electricity. But it does say that Azazel was the angel that taught man about how to work with metals. which generate electricity. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of scripture in the Book of Enoch where it quotes this. So Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and taught them about metals of the earth and the art of working with them. So now we know, according to the Book of Enoch, that it was the angels that taught man how to make things with the metals. And now back to the Tartarian buildings. The original domes were like made of copper, gold leaf, copper being second to being conductive to silver, and the metal spikes. They was all built intricately to generate electricity, basically. Like the whole buildings were so intricate. I watched a really good video on it by Tartaria, as he explains it really, really in depth and really, really well. But I'll share a link down below if you want to see that more detail about how they were built to generate electricity. So basically, the Tartarian buildings were like a connected worldwide global power grid. So the worldwide power grid was demolished along with the Tartarian buildings. Now, according to the official narrative, we know that apparently the world was much slower in the 1700s. Here's a book here that I used to homemade my kids. Interesting. The world in the 1700s much slower. It's strange how it doesn't say anything about Tartarian buildings and free electricity. Strange that. Could it be that free electricity wouldn't have been conducive to slavery? It does say, however, apparently the iron industry was very old. People have been extracting and shaping metal for over 2,000 years. Bear in mind it was the Watchers that showed mankind how to manipulate metals. Now this is interesting. It does say, the upheavals of the age of industry directly inspired many artists and writers, but they responded in different ways. Some celebrated the idea of progress, the power and efficiency of the new machines, and the growth of their cities. Others were horrified at the effects of industry and at the spread of poverty and disease. And there were some who tried to ignore the present altogether and look back at a pre-industrial age which seemed to be much more peaceful and civilised. And it goes on to say about how the English poet William Blake wrote about the dark satanic mills in his poem Jerusalem. These were the factories of the industrial towns which he saw as works of the devil. So it's probably as obvious to you as it is to me that someone had a light bulb moment and decided that after they do away with the whole free electricity system, that they could bring in a system of slavery where to make the rich bankers richer and charge us for electricity for a metering service, which wasn't even originally supposed to charge us for electricity because they're not actually supplying us with anything. And electricity has already been paid for by government. So when they said, when you get an electricity bill, which I'll follow the money, a company that's been allowed to be set up by the government, sounds a little bit like money laundering, doesn't it? So they're double dipping. So they're literally charging you for electricity, which has already been paid for, which should have been free anyway. And then to top it all off, they privatised all our public services, gas, electricity and water. Did God ever want to charge us for water? God literally said, if he feeds the birds, would he not feed us?